Have your seat.
Swear to take anything, just moved it up for it.
That's fine. There's nothing of value in there.
Not to me.
Good evening. Good evening, everyone. I'd like to call to order. I'd like to call to order the St. Clair County Health Department's scheduled public hearing regarding the proposed solar energy and battery energy storage facilities regulations. Next, if everybody would stand, we're going to have the pledge.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Just quickly, I'd like to go over some housekeeping for everyone here. So this is a public hearing, legally required step in the process toward potential adoption of this regulation by the St. Clair County Board of Commissioners. Following tonight's hearing, the proposed regulation, there's 3 paths to take. It could be revised and put up for adoption at that point. It could be presented as is for adoption or withdrawn based on the comments that we receive. Also tonight, there's additional seats available downstairs in the Don Dodge Auditorium for overflow, and this is being live broadcast right down there as well. You also have the opportunity to speak, even if you're downstairs and you sign in. We're running between the rooms. We'll be sure to call your name. We know there's a little bit of a delay between this room and downstairs, but we'll wait for everybody to come up, and we'll also have people kind of on deck to move things through. We have a long list of individuals to get through here. As a reminder, those wishing to speak, please state your name and address. I have them here, but some of them can be difficult to read. And also, you are allotted 3 minutes to speak. We also expect that all those who speak will be treated with respect. This is a listening session. We will not be answering questions or engaging in back and forth dialogue during this hearing. Okay. Thank you. I'm Liz King. I am the Health Officer and Director at St. Clair County Health Department. Here to my right is Greg Brown. He's our Deputy Administrator, or kind of our second in charge. This is Tammy Berger. She is our Executive Assistant who's taking minutes tonight. Dr. Nevin, our Medical Director, is on the end, and then Legal Counsel. Okay, up first we have Mary Conlon.
Mary Conlon, Birchville Township. I've lived in the county all but 3 years of my life. I'd like to take a moment and invite our Father, Jesus Christ, and the Holy Spirit to come and be in this room with us. Father God, I just praise you and I thank you that you look on this county favorably. Father, I know there's all kinds of agendas here. There's Rangers' agenda, there's DTE's agenda, there's Dr. Devin's presentation or what's being put forth. And even everybody out here, we have our thoughts, we have our wants, we have our desires. But we want what you want. I know you want our health, you want our safety, but when it's all said and done, you said that you have a plan, and that's what we want in our life. That's what we want here in St. Clair County. So we invite you into this room, into this place, and we ask for your wisdom and guidance in Jesus' name. Amen.
Next up is Peter Sinclair. Behind Peter, we have Sandra Tannehill, and then Carolyn Fairman.
Hi, my name is Peter Sinclair. I reside in Midland, lifelong Michigander. I am a videographer specializing in environment and energy issues. And so I'm very interested in the rollout of clean energy across Michigan and across the Midwest. I have a resource that I would commend to everybody here that I have produced called sun101.org. Sun, S-U-N, with the numerals 101.org. I've done a lot of interviews with some of the engineers at our great universities, with farmers and local officials such as yourselves who have experience with solar energy, and I try to answer most of the questions that people commonly bring up. And the news is good. Solar is one of the least cost forms of new electrical generation that we can find. And in fact, according to news reports from a recent meeting of utility executives in Houston, gas turbines are going to be almost impossible to install for the next 5 or 6 years due to supply chain issues. Nuclear is 7 to 10 years out, simply because the new technology is first of a kind, and it's all sort of fingers crossed, Lord willing, and the creek don't rise projections. So for meeting the demand for data centers and AI that we're told is burgeoning on us in the near term, solar, wind, and batteries, according to some of the largest builders of all kinds of energy systems in the country, solar, wind, and batteries are really the only thing that we have to meet the demand and keep the lights on at a price that we can afford in the coming years. I'm concerned about some of the documentation that I've read related to these rules. There seems to be a great deal of concern about noise, but what immediately springs to my mind is that the modeled noise at a good-sized solar project such as this around a perimeter, according to at least one large developer I've listened to, is going to be pretty close to ambient, around 40 decibels or less. Now, the nearest dwelling is going to be, depending on your setbacks, many, many hundreds of feet away. And so that's going to be almost like nothing. Whereas if you look at, say, the average home air conditioner, which is typically sited right next to the dwelling, typically will have a decibel level up as high as 80 and will run all night. So if there is a problem with those levels of noise, then you have a public health emergency that you may not be dealing with. Thank you very much.
And then this is Sandra, and then Carolyn Fairman.
My name's Sandra Tannehill, Planning Commissioner for Wales Township. A few pieces of paper with words on them called an ordinance and an invisible property line were the only things protecting our residents from the health hazards related to solar and battery storage facilities. There are many municipalities being preyed on in this county. These companies state they'll be a benefit to our community, are good for our neighbors, and they know what's best, yet are forcing this detrimental hazard on us. According to bureaucrats, our health is no longer a priority. Data and AI centers are priority. While many here are accused of misinformation, conspiracy theories, liars, and NIMBYs by those in this industry, I beg to differ. I spent hours of research, phone calls, emails from in and out of state, engaging with residents, going from meeting to meeting, just to make sure that I'm not wasting my time and doing what's right. Why some of us made local ordinances protective. So if it's forced in our communities, at least we can be somewhat guarded from the negative impact on our health. Because there is nothing healthy in the components included in solar arrays, inverters, or lithium-ion batteries. 300 feet from the side of our home or 50 feet from where a child would typically play and live. Some communities are still lacking those protective ordinances. We are common sense individuals that speak the truth for not just ourselves, but the many in the opposition to the scam. There is no viable reason to continue with this money grab. This is just a paycheck for the reps, lawyers, leaseholders, supporters for this industry, but for the vast majority of us that actually live here in this county, it's our health, happiness, and livelihoods. Let's put that on the moral scale and do what's right. We all agree that their paycheck should not take precedence over our safety. Our future generations should not carry the burden of their greed. How about we tell the truth regarding this industry? It's the thorn in our side, making individuals rich at the expense of our health and happiness. If you vote yes to accept this much-needed regulations, we can now have hope and reassurance our local governments don't stand alone. Your regulations will be our only protection until we regain local control. I'm thankful there are leaders in this room that are afraid to do what's right and realize what's in jeopardy, our lives. Because our county cannot take hazardous trash, I do have suggestions regarding in addition to the regulations. This suggestion is supported with number 17 through 20 in section 4. A disposal plan for failure of upkeep, meaning regulations, bankruptcy, destruction, or the end of a lease, stating where all the materials below and above ground, including hazardous materials, will be properly and legally disposed of, including proof of the legal binding contracts in place for the facilities that they will be disposed at, including regulations of how they're being disposed of.
Got about 10 seconds left.
Abandoning a site, leaving the burden to municipalities and future generations isn't acceptable. Please take this into consideration. Thank you.
After Carolyn, we have Marilyn Strickler, and then Shane Richardson.
Thank you. I want to speak this evening to the safety of our firefighters with regard to solar and battery installations. Firefighters find themselves in the most dangerous of conditions. While the most obvious hazards are burns and physical injuries, the most incipient hazard is exposure to contaminants that include carcinogens, which are equally a serious threat. Something that needs to be considered is how to extinguish solar and lithium battery fires. It has been known to take a significant amount of time, potentially several days, due to the high temperature and sufficient or self-oxidizing nature of batteries, which can lead to thermal runaway and reignition. Lithium-ion batteries can overheat and enter a state of thermal runaway where the fire can sustain itself and spread rapidly. The lithium salts in the batteries are self-oxidizing, meaning that they don't require oxygen to burn, making them difficult to extinguish. Lithium has a high ignition point, requiring the battery to be cool to a sub-ignition temperature to extinguish the fire. Once a lithium battery fire is seemingly extinguished, it can reignite if the temperature rises. These fires release toxic fumes, chemicals, and particles into the air. Studies regarding fireman protection carried out over the past several years suggest that retained contamination in used gear may be contributing to extended firefighter exposure to harmful substances that are known or suspected to cause cancer. Right now, it is not known if the specialized cleaning can be effective. Once the firefighters climb back into their trucks and go back to the station, they distribute the toxins in the trucks and the station and expose more others to similar toxins. Does your fire department have enough air packs for every firefighter who has to respond? If a fire continues for several days, do you have fresh gear for your firefighters for each shift so they don't have to put contaminated gear back on, as you may not have the time to get them properly cleaned? Will the turnout gear need to be replaced, as specialized cleaning may not be sufficient to remove the toxins? Have you considered the exorbitant cost of replacing the fireman's turnout gear? Does your fire department have the necessary equipment to monitor the air quality, which would enable them to warn residents of the potential toxins in the air? If the toxins enter the nearby homes, who will pay for the toxic cleanup? Do you have sufficient equipment to prevent toxins from these types of disasters from flowing into the streams and creeks that flow into the St. Clair River? Please remember, with these projects, you will be dealing with an LLC, which is a company with no assets. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Marilyn Strickler, Speaker Township, Sanilac County. We've been fighting to protect our health, safety, welfare, and water quality and our property values for the last 3 years. In our township, 11 families would benefit from wind turbines out of over 1,300 people. These people will pay the price for the monetary gains of a few. I wouldn't do this to my neighbor, but many will. I'm glad to see Mr. Nevin is willing to stand up for the majority of St. Clair County residents' rights to live a safe, peaceful, healthy life. That is what most of us want, or we wouldn't be living in rural areas. We shouldn't have to spend thousands of dollars to correct our township and state government's mistakes. Our township and states are supposed to be protecting us and our property, not selling us down the river to push this foolish green agenda. It is not sustainable without government subsidies. Anyone that looks into green energy knows it is not safe or healthy for our land, people, or animals. I hope the St. Clair County Commissioners back your medical director and protect the people and environment from this travesty called green energy. My hope is Sanilac County will ride on your coattails and protect us like you are doing in St. Clair County. Gretchen Whitmer and Jennifer Granholm are just trying to make a name for themselves at our expense. You won't see this in their communities. They truly do not care about the citizens of Michigan. The turbine company sent people in to dig test holes 9 feet deep to 60 feet deep. They dug 9 holes in our township. They never had permission from the township to dig. They wouldn't answer us when we asked how they capped the holes, so I am sure they did not do it properly with aquagel or bentonite or concrete. Now we have had people that their faucets plugged up and had to be changed and had to put whole house water filters in that turned black and plugged in 2 weeks. Now they can go about 3 months and plug. We did water tests and they said not to drink the water. Another family did a water test and gave the results to a doctor and he told them not to drink it. The companies come in and do whatever they want and no one is protecting us. They take no responsibility for their actions, just move more of what's to come. If we let them in, they will wreak havoc on us. I don't think a handful of ill-advised landowners that signed leases should dictate the fate of the majority of the community. Thank you.
Shane Richardson. Then Catherine Albrecht is next.
Good afternoon. My name is Shane Richardson, living at 3775 Polina Avenue in Fort Gratiot, Michigan. Thank you, Dr. Nevin, for the countless amount of time that you have put into researching this inhumane industrial solar project. Many people that I spoke to this week mentioned that they were wondering tonight how they were going to make the meeting after having prior commitments. In short, these people made it out tonight after realizing that nothing is more important than our health, safety, and wellness. I've had the privilege to meet someone on a recent trip recently who was 39 years old and a father with a terminal disease. As I listened to him, he explained that he wished he had more time than anything else. My point is, what is more important than our health, safety, and wellness? As we all get older, we all tend to start failing in certain ways. And I think that this is something that's very serious in our county and can affect many people long-term. I think that needs to be considered in a great amount of detail. Someone once told me that empathetic people do not simply thank you for what you have shown or done, for what you have done. Instead, they show you thanks. I ask all of you up here tonight to show the residents that have voted for you that you are thankful for their votes and that you're listening to them. I have attended at least 25 meetings, public meetings, and I have went door to door and received at least 200 petition signatures for people opposing this. Every township mentions in their bylaws that they do not support any projects that do not stand for the health, safety, and wellness of other people. If you research, or if you read this greatly researched proposal, it definitely mentions how the health, safety, and wellness are not in the best interest with this project. Thank you very much.
Catherine Albrecht. Then after, we have Jody, Riley, and Ryan Middleton. Not sure if you're all together speaking.
Good afternoon. Thanks for the opportunity to speak. My name is Dr. Catherine Albrecht. I live in China Township in St. Clair County. I first became aware of the solar issue, like many of you. Having not been there, I didn't know what I would encounter. I drove out there on December 27th with some friends who were in the room. I got out of the truck, and the first thing that met me was a very terrible noise that I'd never heard before. It was a high-pitched screech. I've since identified that screech, as it appears in the regulation, as a pure tone or coil whine. It's very loud, and it sounds like meh, and it goes on all the time. With all due respect to the gentleman who spoke about volume, I actually have a video that I took near one of the inverters. That's the equipment at the end of the solar panels that converts the sun's energy into power that can go up into the grid. And it measured at 95.4 decibels. So it was so loud that my exposure to it by simply being out there, I've been out probably 10 times now since December, has given me a case of tinnitus. And that is actually, I'm actually on steroids now for my hearing because I have been too close to this too many times. I can only think with horror what the residents are experiencing. So with that said, Jody Middleton is actually living there, and she has driven 2 hours out from Shiawassee County to address this. So she's here with her sons. I am submitting some recommendations regarding the regulations. These regulations look at the very common sense laws that are in place in other states where they have actually thought about this in depth. The state of Michigan has 2 sentences with regard to regulations on solar. The state of Maine has 43 pages, and I have them right here. I have their document that I'd like to submit. The state of Connecticut also has multiple pages on sound regulation, as do other countries and municipalities around the world. Among the recommendations in Connecticut, let's see, in Maine, well, I'll submit this so you'll have it. But among my additional recommendations, in addition to what Maine and Connecticut have had to say, is to do toxicity testing. This is something I did not see in the regulations, but TCLP testing is actually required under EPA, but they're not submitting these results to us. It is toxic characteristic leaching procedure. I'm recommending that that be included, that there be insurance against geohazards in the event of a tornado or a hailstorm that destroys these. They need to provide evidence of adequate insurance to clean it up. Fire safety training, and prohibiting companies from engulfing homes in islands in a sea of solar panels. So on here, I know you can't see it, but there is an ocean of solar panels, and living right in the middle of it is the next speaker, Jody Middleton, and her sons.
Got about 10
Riley
seconds.
and Ryan. All right, thank you very much.
After the Middletons, Don Falk is on deck.
We are Jody Middleton and Ryan and Riley Middleton, my sons. We live in Shiawassee County on Wilkinson Road, and we are kind of like where she said, an island. It is surrounded by us by 3 sides. So I've lived there since 2003. They were born in 12. And when they first was talk about this going on, you know, what can I say what my neighbor does with his property? That isn't my business. However, now that it's all started happening, I wish I would have probably said a little bit more. Construction was very, very loud, very loud. Just the fact that they bring in all these semi-trucks, and they were lined up in front of our house for weeks at a time, and they create little parking lots in all the fields around. And it was so loud that I took a couple of videos, and I sent them to my family and just said, something is wrong, like my anxiety is really high. And then talking to my therapist, and mental health is just very important to me. And she's like, it's sound. There's just so much sound that we couldn't do it. These guys were very, very small at the time. The next thing that happened to us was there was some flooding. So the property had to be at 3% grade for them to put it in. So they only had to do a tiny bit of change of the land, but that changed the water that used to flow around my property for, who knows, thousands of years is now on my property. We had times, well, actually, I think it was about 8 or 10 months, we couldn't use the washer, the toilet, the shower, the sink. You know, these guys, when they were talking to Catherine the other day, they were saying, yep, Mom wouldn't let us flush the toilet. Well, yeah, we couldn't. And so talking, you know, with the solar people, they were able to help us. It was the construction people, not the people that put it in, and they would drain our septic tank of water. It wasn't full of sewer, it was water. I have videos of the water just pouring back in as they're taking it out. So he would pull like 3,500 gallons of water, and it's pouring back in, and he would have to turn around and come back and take more, so that we could at least use our bathroom. Which damaged my, you know, like my driveway and stuff with just all those trucks. Eventually, the sound, then we hear sound. The gentleman that said something about it's an ambient sound. I guess ambient to me is you could go to sleep. This is not like that. It is very loud. There is times that people think it's distant tires on a highway or like a low hum, but it doesn't go away for very long. At times, there's no sound, but most of the time there is sound. We had a roommate that lived with us for a while, almost a year. He moved because of headaches. His headaches were terrible. My blood pressure hasn't been able to be controlled for 2 years, which I've had for a long time. This is my son Riley. He has headaches, terrible headaches. They got worse, and he said to me, I have 3 wishes.
Your time's about up.
Did you talk about your wish?
One wish would be to get rid of headaches.
For 1 second. They drove 2 hours to be out here, and I would request that they each have 3 minutes to speak. Jody has now spoken for 3 minutes, and Ryan and Riley.
Okay, so we were talking one day, he has headaches that are just debilitating, where he sleeps, he can't go to school, he might miss school. He has missed school, I've had to pick him up. But one day I said, I don't know, we were talking about 3 wishes, and he said these 3 wishes, and this is just stuck in my head, like, we've told his, it's okay. And so he had 3 wishes. Will you tell them what your first wish would be if you had 1 wish in the entire world?
To get rid of headaches.
Headaches for who?
Everyone.
Everyone in the world, is what he told me. Can you describe your headaches a little bit?
They get so bad that I can cry, throw up, and sleep all day.
Do you miss school?
Yes, a lot.
Do you notice the sound outside?
Yes.
So what do you think about the person that says it's ambient sound, which means like your music you listen to go to sleep at night? Does it sound like that?
No, it's the exact opposite. You can't fall asleep.
Right. Yeah. Another thing we were talking about with Catherine one day, and it just, she's asking my boy some questions, and kids don't always tell you what's going on in their life. And this one was telling her that he had ringing in his ears. I did not know that until like a week ago. So he's now been telling me when he has ringing, and it's not constant, but can you describe how you said it suddenly happens?
It blacks out all the noise where you can't hear anything but ringing. Like if you're having a conversation, you won't hear them. You won't just hear ringing in your ear. You'll have to ask them to say it again. Mm-hmm.
So whether this is all associated with solar, we don't know, but we know that our lives have changed drastically since all of this happened. I do have another letter that is from a neighbor that has a testimony that is very similar to ours. And I do have a calendar that I keep of headaches for this poor kid, and he has 2 or 3 a week. I didn't have headaches until about 2 years ago, and that's about the time that this started.
Your, the letter that you brought, you could submit that through the email.
Say it again?
We have an email where you could submit
okay.
comments.
Okay.
You can submit that in or have your neighbor do
Okay,
that.
perfect. Thank you. Okay, thank you.
After Dawn Falk is Dolores Pickard.
Well, this is just going to be very brief. First off, I want to say thank you to the Board of Commissioners, Dr. Nevin, Liz King, the St. Clair County Health Department, and the Legal Department for writing this solar battery energy storage facility regulation. It's very much appreciated by all of us. As I went through, I went through the regulation, and I've noted three things that stick out to me that I think maybe we could put some more teeth into. So there's a lot that I like, but I know there's a lot of room for improvement. The National Renewable Energy Lab estimated decommissioning cost associated with the solar energy facility was $368,000 per megawatt. Our decommissioning fee in this regulation is only $100,000 per megawatt. Our decommissioning fee should be the same as the National Renewable Energy Lab. I believe that the Drain Commissioner should be involved with every applicant throughout the permitting process and throughout the life of the solar energy facility. I do not agree at all with recommending a reasonable effort to consult before submitting an application. Define reasonable for the applicant and reasonable to the resident living next to the solar facility. I bet the definitions would be very different. In the violation section, the violation of this regulation shall be considered a misdemeanor, and it says and/or a fine of $200. I suggest you take away that and/or and just make it, let me see what, the prison and a fine. And I think it should be at least $2,000, and I think that it should be daily, this fine, until the violation is fixed. We just heard in Shiawassee, for some of these people, you know, speaking with Catherine here the last few months, you know, sometimes it takes these companies years to fix these violations, years. And Shiawassee, that facility has been bought and sold 6 times. So they are not in any hurry to fix anything. So that's it. I just think that the residents, I just think the people in Shiawassee, I think they've suffered enough throughout this time, and I sure in the heck don't want to see it happen here in St. Clair County or anywhere else here in the state of Michigan. Thank you.
I'm sorry if I messed your name up here. We thought it was Dolores? Yeah? Okay. After Dolores, we have Vance Richardson and Sandra Richardson.
I'm Dolores Pickard. I live out on North Street, right on the main road. I'm a mile north of the post office. It's been a family farm. It's a great big farm. It's beautiful. And I do not want any kind of solar around me. And I don't expect our neighbor, which is an idiot, wanted these solar panels. People have threatened him to kill him. What all, I don't know else, but I know that. But another thing is, I have a granddaughter. She lives in Belding, Michigan. I don't know, you probably never heard of Belding, but it's by Grand Rapids, Greenville. And they had a beautiful little house, cement driveway. Her husband is an engineer for the city of Grand Rapids. There's those great big windmills about 7 miles from their house. They hum, those big mills go round and round, and one dropped a leaf. It shook their house. They had a beautiful cement driveway, double cement driveway. It cracked that to pieces. They tried to sell their home. Of course, nobody's going to buy it with them big windmills around. They can't even give it away. And now she's had a drastic thing with her health. The doctor told her she needed to be closer to Grand Rapids. What they're going to do with the house, I don't know. I told her to go down and get a house, leave the house there, whatever. I'll give her the money to buy that house down by Grand Rapids. Well, Greenville's where they want to go. So this is horrible, those great big windmills. It's sick. And how anybody would want them solar panels around, I don't know. So that's.
Thank you. Are you ready?
She mentioned she'd like Ms. King to speak in the mic or a little louder. They can't hear very well. I don't have much to say on that.
Thank you.
Vance Richardson, Fort Gratiot. I've been to various meetings. I've been here, probably, first meeting was here at the county probably a couple years ago. At first, I got notification of this solar thing through the township. They were pretty secretive about it. Come to a meeting. It was, in fact, a hearing. As I explored this information, I went on of course, the media, you know, the Facebook thing, which everyone will go, well, okay. Solar farm, Shiawassee, the noise. I thought somebody's joking, right? Somebody's doing what they whatever do. So I drove over there. The noise was atrocious. We drove up and down the road for a mile with my son with his phone, the decibels, 65, 80, whatever. My wife got a headache from it. The area looked like devastation, quite honestly. It was it took it down quite a few notches. And I came here, and as the meetings went on, I said, Ranger Power, they're coming here. I said, Ranger Power, why not go over there and fix the mess before you come here and try and sell us on a mess? Wouldn't that make sense? Years have gone by, the mess is still a mess, the sound is still a sound. The gentleman says, oh, don't worry, it's like an air conditioner running. If it was minor problem, it wouldn't be everyone's attention. What about the noise? It's devastating. It's ringing all the time. I mean, who wants to live and hear next to that when you open up your windows in the morning? Not to mention the visual part of it. And up and down Cole Road where I live, and we've talked to hundreds of residents, quite a few can't make it here. Quite a few are elder. They've lived there all their lives, and they're going to be surrounded by an ugly fence and solar farms. So you get up in the morning, and that's what you see when you look out your window, and the noise. Some of them have told me they're devastated. The neighbor down the road had a heart attack. Why? Because over on Metcalf Road, they spent weeks with chainsaws cutting up a forest, and yes, there's a lease for solar. And it's right on Galbraith Line, the Galbraith ditch that everyone knows runs right to Clyde, to their power station, and it runs right into the lake. Brace Road, same thing. You've got a big ditch on Brace Road, runs right into the field where all the solar is.
10 seconds left.
So to wrap it up in a nutshell, your home is your sanctuary. You have nothing in this world if you don't have your health. And when you throw it out in the line to devastation of your community and your township, it is a cancer. The ugliness and the sound and the environment, huge questions on that. We're all living on wells.
Time's up.
Please, let's do the best you can to control this monster.
Sandra Richardson. After Sandra, we have Elizabeth, Ely, thank you, and then Kevin Felster.
Thank you very much for having this forum tonight. I appreciate everyone that's here, and I just can't express how huge our health concerns are looking at this and trying to do the research ourselves for over close to 2 years now. And if you could put yourself in the shoes of the residents that found out about this project that was proposed in our neighborhoods. These are neighborhoods with multiple families, several families, close to 15 on the road that approximately that I live on. And to think that someone would even consider dumping this, which I consider a landfill, across the street from my home, next door to my home and behind my home, This wouldn't be allowed if I was to propose anything of such magnitude in a neighborhood. So you know and I know that townships have had regulations for years for reasons, and it has to be compatible, and it has to not endanger our health. And there's many concerns with the noise, many concerns with the appearance that affect our health. This has already affected many of the residents' health, and I can verify that with documentation if needed. There's many residents that have had to seek medical help and psychological help to even entertain that a township would bring this into their community. Our township went ahead and agreed to this project through Fort Gratiot Township after hundreds, and I mean hundreds of residents showed up at the convention center to object to it for the reasons we're here tonight. So be thankful that we have someone that has the intelligence to do the research and to go forward and to proceed to share that knowledge that they have to save our St. Clair County, not just Fort Gratiot, not just another township, but this is St. Clair County, and the fool that would have agreed to change the regulations to allow this so close to our Great Lakes makes me sick to my stomach, because that is a gift, our Great Lakes, that we are so fortunate to live next to. So I would like to, again, thank anyone that's put in an effort to do research on this, and it's been huge. I asked my township to do this before they regulated this in our township, and they did not do it. They don't have the education, they don't have the knowledge to do it, so they should have asked for the help that we're asking for today, and the help we're asking for is this health department to put some regulations, some heavy regulations on this project in St. Clair County. Thank you.
Hello, board members and fellow residents of St. Clair County. My name is Elizabeth Ely. Can you hear me? Okay. I reside at 1210 Scott Avenue in Port Huron. I actually grew up just off Kerrigan Road. And I am a local holistic health journalist and advocate. I run the Blue Water Holistic Health Network, and I have a group on Facebook which you are all invited to join to discuss this. Thanks to Mr. Sinclair for his counterpoint research. Thanks also to the intelligent members of this community for their truly good independent research. And research should be the focus here. Welcome, Dr. Niven, to St. Clair County. I await your research on the health effects of solar farms, and you have my support as long as you, as the kids say, bring the receipts. I want to see the data, and I think that this decision should be based on data. Understand that saving family farms and building renewable and sustainable energy solutions are really admirable goals, but they are not the mandate of the St. Clair County Health Department. Your mandate is to protect the health of county residents, and I think it's clear how the county residents feel about this. I'm asking for safety and accountability, and I'm not hearing a history of accountability from these companies so far, particularly Ranger Power. Also, property grabs are being done without local input. There has been an effort, I don't know if it succeeded already, to make these decisions happen at the state level so they will be forced on local communities. For all those who say that there could be possibly some good for alternative energy from a higher perspective, what I see is this could set a precedent for other types of land buyouts, some things that environmentalists may not like. Property rights are human rights. Health is a human right. Finally, I would invite solar advocates in this room to join us in open communication with those in the natural health community. What happened to us? We used to be friends. It used to be on the same page to support healthy energy and healthy people. So I invite everyone, no matter what side, so-called side of this issue they are on, to join my Facebook group, Blue Water Holistic Health Network, to join the discussion. I think that with this regulation, you have a historic opportunity to make St. Clair County the test case and precedent for all of Michigan and eventually all states, even Canada. Further, and this is my last point, when I teach the people of this area how to assert their property rights through the use of common law, it's going to cost these companies a lot more than the penalty that was cited in this regulation and even what was proposed by the woman from Wales Township. So I don't think it would be good to mess with us. Thank you.
Kevin Felster? Yes. After that is Ashley Richardson, and then Angie Dufresne.
I wasn't prepared to speak, but I'm a lifelong resident of St. Clair County. I live in Emmett Township on the other side of the county, where it's nothing but rural property. A couple points I want to make is, number one, when these things are considered, why is it always we're going to go to a rural location? I came tonight because Wales Township, which is right next door to me, there's been a proposed solar field out there. Why do they always turn to those areas when those county residents, you probably don't want to hear this, but we get the least amount of county services? Where I live, the only county service that I'm actually privy to is a very poorly maintained dirt road. There's not a lot of people out there. Yes, we have a county library and we have this and that, which we supposedly support with our property taxes, which go up every year, even though there's no real reason for it. Up here at the north end of Port Huron, you have acres and acres of parking lot. If they want to put in solar panels, why don't they do like foreign countries do and put the solar panels over top of the parking lots? It's vacant property. And if we're talking about noise levels, and if 40 to 45 decibels is ambient, I can tell you when I walk outside of my house, I don't hear anything but birds. There's no traffic, there's no noise, there's no nothing. There's the birds and the bugs, you can literally hear the buzz of the bugs and the frogs chirping in my pond down in my front yard. There is no noise. So when we talk about 40 to 45 decibels being ambient sound, that might be true up here where you never get a break from the noise, or any community down the river all the way to Algonac. These people might be used to it. Out there, no, we don't live that way. And to me, pardon my language, it pisses me off that they always consider farmland to put these things up. Why not put it over the parking lot up here? You got a huge Walmart parking lot with vacant property next door. You can put your solar panels and your battery facility all right up there.
Down to about 10 seconds.
It's the largest city in St. Clair County. Most of the county services are expended here. So why should I pay for it with my property value or my health so that they can put a solar farm out in BFE where I live? The other thing I want to point out is,
you're going to have to wrap it up.
The health department's working on a regulation. I spent my life in automotive plastics. I was a maintenance manager and a plant engineer for several different companies. There's all kinds of regulations you got to comply with.
Your time's
whether
up,
it's
sir.
state, federal, local, and contracts that you sign with your customers. In my experience, companies in the industry find a way to get around regulations. And this type of thing, without stringent oversight.
Time's up, we gotta
From
move on.
county officials.
Thank you.
I guarantee you, they will find a way to do it cheaper, to get around things. I mean, I've seen things working in the plastics industry
Thank
that
you.
would curl your hair.
Thank you. We
Thank
gotta,
you.
we
Your
gotta move
time's up.
on.
One fact where I was at, I'm surprised they weren't shut down. Literally, the oil was rushing out of the ground.
Your time's up, sir. Thank you.
Oh, I'm sorry. I can't
It's
hear you.
okay.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, it's okay. Thank you. Appreciate it. Ashley Richardson?
Good evening. I would like to start off with thanking our health department and Dr. Nevins for their work that they have done thus far towards helping the community with this gigantic issue. I am a physician assistant. I have practiced in healthcare for 25 years, first as a nurse and then as a physician assistant. I serve our local community here in town. I work at a physician's office, and I would like to personally attest to the detrimental health effects that the proposal and that the conflict of this project being placed in our area has already generated. I would also like to attest to the fact that this is a vulnerable population that will be directly affected in irreversible ways. I have had elderly patients come in that live directly in the area that will be influenced. I have had veterans who have honorably served our country, who have many health issues, including mental health issues, that live in the area that will be directly affected by this project. And it's devastating. I'm already seeing increased levels of anxiety, depression, high blood pressure, insomnia. I'm already making medication adjustments for these issues, just at the mere, proposal of these projects coming in and affecting our community, and I would like to testify to that. These people are coming in and speaking to me, their hands are shaking, their voices are shaking. I mean, the physical effects are already noticeable. They're having GI issues. They can't eat. They're losing their appetites. They're having their irritable bowel syndrome flare up. So these are real health issues that are a major concern, and it's devastating for these people. Many express that they can't move. They can't just leave. You know, they've spent their entire lives working to be in this community, to be in the setting they're in. Many of them have, homes in the rural areas surrounding this. And, some of them have told me, I'm too old to move. I feel like I'm helpless. There's nothing I can do. So to see the effort I have seen from the health department thus far is a true blessing, in my opinion, because these people, a lot of them can't even get out of their homes to attend these meetings to express their needs and their frustrations and their struggles. And I think it's important that we represent these people and make sure that their voices are heard and that their health, safety, and well-being is protected. We've had very little luck at, with Fort Gratiot Township to have them represent us. We tried to address things at that level.
Time's almost up.
We're dismissed. So I would encourage you to look at these regulations and be very stringent in what we do, because the health effects will continue and it will affect our residents in many, many ways. Thank you.
Thank you. Angie Dufresne. After Angie is John Anter, and then Carol Miller.
Hello, Angie Dufresne, Parker Road, Fort Gratiot. I am a directly impacted homeowner. My property backs right up to the project in Fort Gratiot. I too would like to thank everybody that's up here, including the legal counsel, for the time they've put into helping us. I am one of the individuals that came to the county commissioners asking for help. And I think the regulations are amazing. I do think there's been some
input where maybe we could shore some things up. I too would like to see the fire response plan and emergency response plan just have a little bit more meat to it. You know, being somebody that would be evacuated if there were a fire, you know, I would like to see a little bit more there. I think every single one of these regulations should be put in place, but I also feel like it doesn't go far enough for people like me. We worked really hard to be where we're at, and I can't live around a project like this. I can't. We're out there because of medical issues. So my family has no choice but to leave if this project comes in. If we can't sell our house, you know, what are we supposed to do? I know that you guys are looking at the health and safety of this, but when you take everything from somebody, that creates health problems. I don't know if there's any way you guys can address that in the regulations, but I think it's important that everybody understand that just having a project proposed has taken over a year and a half of all of our lives. We don't know what's happening. First they said no, then it was appealed, you know, then they accepted a settlement. And the way it's looking now, we could have another 2, 3, 4 years before it's all situated. I don't think anybody understands the kind of impact that has on people. And again, we have no choice. You know, my neighbor can make a lot of money off of this, but nobody around the project is being compensated for anything that we're having to go through. And so thank you guys for what you've put together. I really hope that you forward this on to the board. I am hoping to see a few little tweaks before you do that. But thank you for what you're doing.
John Anter and Carol Miller, then Judy Wilton.
John Anter, Port Huron. I'm a master electrician in, you know, the area for the last 30 years. I've worked at, you know, gas-fired turbines, coal powerhouses, the wind turbines. Have worked on a solar project, but one gentleman made a good idea. We should have solar panels in these parking lots and on the roofs of these buildings. Our Union Hall in Detroit has solar panels in the parking lot and the roof, and we're net zero, you know, energy. We, you know, create what we use. So there's good ways to put it in. Technologies are changing. There's, you know, sodium-ion batteries now that are not flammable. So it's changing so fast. You know, any restrictions, we don't want them so strict that we can't have any projects in the future as the technologies improve. And, you know, the green energy, the wind and the solar is going to help us with energy independence, which everybody wants. You know, we're just talking about not getting, you know, natural gas from Canada. It's like, and oh, what are we going to do for power? We're going to need good, clean energy. There's good ways. There's good contractors that put them in well, and there's crappy contractors that don't do a good job. So I think each project needs to be looked at specifically, but the restrictions shouldn't be so narrow that we can't have any future projects. So thank you for your time, and have a good night.
Thank you. Carol Miller, Judy Wilton, and then Mike Wilton.
First of all, thank you, Liz, and thank you, Dr. Nevin, for all the work you've done. You have no idea how much this community appreciates both of you and your team. I've been a nurse for over 41 years, so one of the first things I look at is safety. When it comes to solar farm fires, the main culprits behind these incidents often hide in plain sight. They're the electrical components like DC isolators, connectors, cables, and inverters. When an incident happens, it's usually a disaster, and the first people to arrive to assist are our firefighters. The failure of these components could stem from system design errors or faulty products, exacerbated by poor installation practices. Poorly installed systems stand no chance against Mother Nature's wrath or human error. Beyond assessments, proactive maintenance is crucial. This means keeping all components, from panels to cables, in tip-top shape to prevent malfunctions that could lead to fires. Moreover, installing advanced fire suppression systems, which are very costly, would offer an additional safeguard by automatically tackling fires should they occur, thereby protecting both the installation and surrounding communities from harm. A study conducted by the BRE National Solar Center found that more than a quarter of fires involving solar power systems were caused by the photovoltaics, and those fires were all serious fires, meaning fires that were difficult to extinguish and spread beyond the area of origin. What people don't understand is if there's still a light outside in the environment, a solar panel will continue to generate DC current. Unless a complete system failure or another intervention happens, that possesses the added risk to the firefighter of electrocution. Valid concern exists about potential health hazards associated with toxic materials releasing fires. Candium telluride, copper indium telluride, and gallium arsenide modules are the major culprits. Atmospheric transport of combustion byproducts from the point of a release point to the point of intake to nearby communities, as well as sensitivity in response to these chemicals on top of electrocution, should be a high priority. Environmental monitoring should include a routine and maintained data summary given to both the Health Department and Board of Commissioners, and therefore be documented on a routine basis. It only takes one incident to cause devastating consequences for life safety as well as the community. When it comes to fire safety at solar farms, operators often overlook fire mitigation strategies. Many choose to rely on insurance providers to cover losses in case of a fire. This only takes into matters of the fire, not the aftermath devastation, the cleanup, and the financial strain on the community that will most likely be left behind by these companies. When you're looking at these regulations, please ensure that fire mitigation, including capture of any fire retardants used, are mainly taken care of and looked at. And one final thing, I don't think people understand. I live in Port Huron Township. We had a fire in Port Huron for U.S. Therethane. It drained this entire county's fire department. If Fort Gratiot has a fire, we're all in risk of fire. Thank you.
Judy Wilton.
Judy Wilton, Fort Gratiot. I want to thank Dr. Nevin, and thank you all for being here and allowing me to speak. I appreciate his in-depth analysis and welcomed his regulation requirement code for solar and battery energy requirements for our county. I'd also like to thank all of you here today for taking the time to be with us. All of his regulations that he recommends are important for the well-being of residents. Personally, for me, as a vulnerable resident, I suffer from migraines, and Dr. Nevin's recommendations for noise mitigation requirements are a must. My hearing gets very sensitive just before, during, and after a migraine, and the stressors of listening to a constant tonal noise, humming nonstop may trigger more migraines for me, and I might have to leave my home just to get away from the noise. And I want to thank the young gentleman over there from Shiawassee that came up and spoke about his headaches, because I know what migraines are, and you get sick, and it's just an awful feeling. And I also have a neighbor who has an autistic son, and I can't imagine what constant humming noise would do to his stress levels and his well-being. The visual pollution requirements are also very important. I can't imagine anyone here in this room that would like looking at an industrial field from their window compared to a cornfield that makes no noise and makes no sense to me. And after reading what our township signed with regards to decommissioning costs, we were way too low and definitely need to protect our future generations so they are protected from the undue stress of having to raise taxes just to pay for something we can fix today. This is our reality. This moment in time will change our lives forever, so please do what's right for our community. A home should be a place of peace and tranquil energy and not a war zone. Thank you.
Mike Wilton, and then after that is John Stacy, and then Eileen Tesh.
Good afternoon. My name is Mike Wilton. I'm a lifelong area resident. I've lived in Fort Gratiot for 68 years. Very close proximity. I know I don't look like it, but very close enough proximity to this project that I was notified by law that it was happening. So we have a nice 50-acre woods, not all woods, but mostly woods. And I was contacted too, if I wanted to lease my property. And let me make one thing perfectly clear to everybody. There is no value added to the ratepayer and taxpayer for these projects. None, zero, zip, okay? Some opine that it's for the greater good, of everybody. Typically, when a project is for the greater good of everybody, the people that are being harmed are compensated. There is no compensation in this at all, period. Another fact, this is not a government project. This is a private enterprise, purely for profit. They are using your tax dollars and my tax dollars to meet the margins to do it. It's as simple as that. There's nothing green about this, period. The panels come from China. But I don't want to get off topic. I want to say thank God for Dr. Nevins, okay? He has put together invaluable, it's so valuable, it's astounding that this could get by anybody before, totally. I think everything that you've done, that your report, your regulations point out, are on solid foundation. There is law, there is precedent that backs it up, from local to state to federal laws that back this up. There is no good intent behind this project except to make a profit. And that's all you need to know. There is no greater good in this for anybody. We don't need it. Someone said something about natural gas and turbines that they're unavailable. No, they are. Take a look. GE is making a lot of money making turbines, okay? I came out of that, a bit out of that industry, and I can tell you, most of the electricity generated for this county comes from a gas turbine, and it runs 24/7. Have you heard any complaints about it? No, none. Solar panels are 20% efficient. What would you buy from me if I told you it was 20% efficient?
Time's running down.
Probably nothing, okay? And then, as this points out, try to get back on point, the health and safety, we have a board here. We had enough foresight, the county had enough foresight to have a health department. We have a medical director that says
Time's
right
up.
here, backed up by science and fact, that this is harmful. If this company cannot meet these hurdles in this regulation,
Got to wrap it up.
then it's a no-go. That's all I need to say.
Thank you.
Thank you.
John Stacy,
He's on his way up.
Eileen Tesh,
My name's John Stacy. I live on Metcalf Road. I have not seen any regulations. I've heard talk about them, but is there anything in print that, and why haven't I received it? Anybody know why?
the regulations are posted on the county website, our website, and then they were available in person at the health department as well. If you contact us, we can make sure you get a copy.
Thank you.
All right, I think I have your contact.
Now, is there anybody here in the real estate business? Well, I guess we all are really, we own something, we own homes. If they put this on my property, I'd probably make a lot of money. But you put it on my neighbor's property, and I'm gonna have to give my home away. I've been retired for 25 years, so I'm not worried about, I don't know how long I have left, but I got 20 years on that last speaker, so. Anyway, I would like to have something in writing so I can look at it. And I'd like to know how far can they build from my property line, how far from the roads. I have nothing. And I will contact you. Thank you.
Thank you. Eileen Tesh? And then on deck, I think, is Bill Pickard? I'm sorry, okay.
Good evening, Eileen Tesh. This is the message that I received from Luke Deming, Huron County Chair of the Republican Party. He just asked that I shared this email with you regarding their solar and battery ordinances that they put together with the Huron County Health Department. We are putting in our ordinance that all solar and battery facilities need to provide to the health department all toxic chemicals and products used in production of panels and batteries. Also mandatory ground testing before project starts. Every year or every 2 years testing for toxins in the ground due to contamination. So obviously they have a baseline. Note, some of the large potato companies that are contracting out to the farmers are asking the farmers to sign a contract that they do not or have not ever had solar panels or battery facilities on their property or have had a neighboring property have a tornado hit and spread debris from solar panels and batteries onto their farmland due to the toxicity of the glass shards being in the ground and getting into the potatoes and unable to x-ray to see if the glass is in the product. I believe that the sugar beet growers and the carrot facilities will be right behind these guys with such contracts also. Note, this farmland will never be able to be used for growing anything that grows in the ground due to the heavy metals and glass shards, possibly to be in the ground to contaminate the food. We need to protect our neighbors' farmland due to any straight line winds or tornadoes that may damage solar panels and spread over neighboring acreage, which would contaminate these properties severely for years to come. Thank you.
Bill Pickard, and Doug Nowicki, and Chris Bartow.
My name is Bill Pickard, and I just wanted to say, folks, your food doesn't come from supermarkets. It comes from farms like mine. Don't ruin this beautiful, productive soil. And we produce more pinto beans, navy beans, black beans than any state in the United States. I hit 285 bushel corn, 80 bushel beans, 120 bushel wheat. I have extremely good yields and crops. If you want to go green, plant more trees. You know, and another thing is, I've got paperwork proving these useless, stupid solar panels won't work. We don't have enough sunlight in Michigan. It's too cloudy. You have to have sunlight. Put them in New Mexico. You know, and I'm here to address people that I have 137 acre farm, one of them, and it's called black sand, which is productive, especially for corn. But when my neighbors now, and I know them all, behind me, next to me, and across from me, put them out there, what's scaring the hell out of me is they go up 30 degrees in heat. You talk about extreme heat. So if it's 70 degrees out one summer day, my farm is going to be 100 degrees. It's going to totally burn my crops up. And then I'm wondering, who's going to compensate me, or at my age, hire me for a new job now? And these solar panels, all you gotta do is Google it. Look up industrial solar panels. They're full of cadmium and arson and battery acid, toxic, dangerous, poisonous things. And if a tree hits them, or a deer runs into it, or a bird flies into it and puts a hole in it, and they go crashing over. And then it goes into our creeks and our streams, and into Lake Huron, we got no fishery left now, and no drinking water, because it can be toxic, poison junk. So I say, please, really, really think hard about this, because solars aren't gonna work. I guarantee it. And my helper, Don Bola, on our farm. He's my helper. He's got an engineering degree, process engineering degree from Ferris State. Told me that, Bill, in 2 years, these things are gonna be junk. And they were already working on fusion and Tesla's coil that produce way more electricity. It's safer on the environment, and it's gonna be cheaper, and it's gonna help everybody out, not just six farmers. And I say another thing, instead of paying the farmers to ruin their soil, pay them to preserve the land, protect the farmland and preserve it for future references. That's what we need to do. Don't pay them to ruin it. Pay them to preserve it. Say, hey, I'll give you $2,000, I'm just grabbing a number, per acre to preserve that beautiful soil for your grandchildren, so they all will have food. Don't think short term. You know, it's not, they're, honest folks, just Google it, industrial solar panel. You'll find all the bad toxic poison you'll faint. Like I said, my mother gave you the paperwork. Read that. It's right here. They're not going to work. It's a joke.
Thank you. Doug Nowicki. After Doug is Chris Bartow, and then Sharon Hessling.
Hi, my name is Doug Nowicki. I appreciate everything you guys do. Don't always agree with everything, but I sit on Greenwood Township trustee. I live in Greenwood Township, lived in St. Clair County all my life. Not quite sure I understand the power grab that we're going after. Our town's already fighting the state now. We got to argue with the health department, but I'm not here to think. I am here, I'm a firefighter. I've been a firefighter for 20 years. A lot of statements have been made about fires in the solar panels. I can be honest, I've never been involved once, so I'm not gonna say anything good or bad about them. But I'm gonna tell you, the most toxic place is your house. I don't know why we allow people even to go back into their house after they have a structure fire. The off-gassing is terrible. Your house should be knocked down, not rebuilt. You shouldn't be allowed to go in and get your personal stuff. It should be a hazmat team. It is the nastiest places in the world. My guys go in there and fight fire. They come out and they call it the fire smell. I call it liquid death. They're taking it home to their kids. Firefighters are dying from structure fires, not solar panel fires. The other thing is I do the pollution side. My argument on pollution side, I don't like pollution. I'm a farmer. Small farmer as far as do vegetables and all that. I use very little chemicals. You do realize that the biggest user of inorganic chemicals in this country is the American farmer. They use a lot of chemicals. I see trucks go by every day. Just today, I saw 3 semis go by spraying fields. They don't have nothing in them. They're pre-spraying them for weeds so they don't have to work the weeds in. We use way too much chemicals. I'm not organic because I don't follow the rules, but I'm a minimalist. I only use sprays when I really have to. The other thing I would really like to see the health department put a stop to is the city sewage sludge that is brought out to our farmers' fields. Every year, I was township supervisor, I got reports, PFAS, heavy metals, chemicals that you wouldn't want to, if I put in a cup of water, you'd run screaming. We're putting in our farmers' fields. They actually have a maximum. When they hit a certain maximum, they can no longer put it on the farmers' fields. You tell me that that's good for us. So, I mean, if we're going after pollution, let's go after pollution. We got pollution. We got the farmers are using way more chemicals. I had the lady ask me, she said, well, they follow regulations. I said, they follow regulations just like you do when you're driving down the road until a cop pulls you over because you're going 75 and a 55. Then you follow the regulations. And the city, I'm a firm believer. I don't want to eat it. I don't want to sell it.
Time's running down.
Else. So. That's all I'm asking. If we're going after the solar and thing, let's do the rest of it, or industrial parks. I live next to a power plant. Talk about noise. Those peakers are like semis running all day at full tilt. I got 3 of them right behind me, a mile away, and I walk out of the house, that's all I hear. I can't even hear the turkeys gobble from my house. I appreciate you guys' time, and thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, everybody. Chris Bartow, Metcalf Road in Clyde Township. My sister and I grew up in Warren, and then we ended up in Georgia for 25 years. During the COVID nightmare, we were seeing a lot of what was going on in Michigan. Decided to come home and help our elderly parents navigate things that were going on up here. So we bought a farm in Birchville, and we sold our farm in Georgia. Over a few months, we have llamas, sheep, chickens, dogs, cats. We are hobby farmers. We moved into Birchville. 6 months later, our father passed away. When our mother was ready, we bought a place in Clyde on Metcalf and moved all the animals there. Sold Mom's house in St. Clair, moved Mom in there, moved everything from our house, got everything in there. I retired, started getting Social Security, and then I saw Atwell surveyors across the road in Birchville surveying the McNaughton farm, and spoke to them, and they said, oh, we're doing an environmental survey. So I was like, okay, and then my neighbor talked to another lady that was having her property surveyed and got it out of her. She wasn't supposed to mention this, but that it was for solar. So from that moment, what I've been thinking about, I'm one of the people who are very stressed. I don't sleep. Everything about living in an industrial solar facility for me would be pure hell. I'm not being dramatic. I live with 2 women. I'm very not dramatic. That would be pure hell for me. The visual pollution, worrying about our wells, flooding, contamination. I'm just now learning more about different types of sound that can affect our mental and physical health. I'm very hopeful with the health department's solar regulations. If this very inappropriately sited industrial solar plant is built in our neighborhood, at least we have the hope of the sound pollution being appropriate and bearable. Berms, setbacks, and noise mitigation make me hopeful that our life won't be destroyed. Thank you to everyone who has stepped up and care about the well-being of the residents in St. Clair County, especially Dr. Nevin for putting your life on hold. The commissioners, Liz King, thank you all so much. We truly appreciate you, and as someone, who people drive past my property and ask, can we pet your animals? People literally gasp when they come onto our property. It's beautiful. We're so blessed, and I pray that we don't allow for St. Clair County to take a worse turn than this county already has. Thank you all very much.
Sharon Hessling. After that is Reverend Renee Leslie and Elizabeth Masters.
Hi, I'm Sharon Hessling. I live at 5138 North Road in North Street. And as if the proposed solar thing happens in Clyde Township, it will literally be in my backyard. So I'm glad to see that visual pollution mitigation is addressed in your regulations for proposed in energy facilities draft. But before moving here, we lived overseas in a compound where when we looked out our window, all we could see was concrete walls. So we wanted to retire in a place where we could look out our window and see across fields. We have that beautiful rural setting where we live. And of course, we do not wish to lose that view. But what I did not see in your regulation proposal is anything mitigating glint and glare. Glare is a potential issue with solar panels. The amount of glare depends on the angle of the panels, the time of day, and weather conditions. When sunlight hits the panel directly, the panel absorbs the maximum amount of light, as it is designed to do. However, when the sun is not directly overhead, the incident angle of light increases, as does the possibility of reflection. As we know, the sun is at different angles at different times of the year here in Michigan, as well as at different times of day. Although modern solar panels purport to minimize reflection, the glare can be a nuisance. It could make it uncomfortable for us to have activities in our outside area. And it can also be a nuisance for drivers. And I know that there's supposed to be a berm and trees, but those may not always have leaves all time of year. And you know how bad the glare already is off the sun and off the snow in the wintertime. So that's a concern. And I did a little research, and I do know that there are companies out there that actually do studies about glare and thing. And so I would like to ask that in your regulations, you make a provision to require developers of energy facilities to perform a glint and glare study and prove that their solar arrays will not produce significant glare on nearby neighboring properties and public roads. Thank you.
Thank you. Renee Leslie.
I just want to thank you for allowing us to speak to you. I have read the proposal, and I agree with most of it. Listening to so many of you that had suggestions for more teeth in that, they kind of covered everything I wanted to cover, but I just wanted to share with you just a couple of things. Someone had mentioned the glass shards. I have family that live in Florida, and as you know, they had a hurricane this past year that involved several tornadoes. This family member has a couple hundred acres. They have horses, some very expensive horses. They can no longer use the 200 acres because of the glass shards. Part of their fields were for haying, and once you get the glass shards in there, they don't come out. So they can no longer use that field for hay, and they can no longer pasture their horses. So they have a farm that's up for sale that nobody wants. I have a friend who lives in Idaho. Somebody mentioned potatoes. So because I saw something online, I contacted my friend. And she says, yeah, we have neighbors that are big potato farmers, and they don't know what they're going to do because they had solar, and they were told they could plant potatoes around and underneath the solar. And now Frito-Lay are no longer buying potatoes if they're anywhere near solar panels. So when we talk about the agrivoltaics, about having livestock, and having crops under or around these things, we're killing ourselves. So please keep that in mind. Yes, those are just two individual stories, but they're both real stories that affect real people and real businesses. And I've often wondered, why are they coming to St. Clair County? Honestly, I think it's because they think we're a bunch of dumb hicks. I'm being honest. And to be honest with you, I am not anti-solar. I am not anti-wind. I think there is a place for these. Parking lots were mentioned. Problem is, there aren't enough parking lots in the state of Michigan to supply the amount of solar that is needed to make us 100% renewable. Right now, with something like 20,000 acres of Michigan farmland currently being used, according to Michigan.gov, their 2023 report, it only supplies 8% of our electrical needs. Figure that out. 20,000 acres is 8%. What would it take? How much farmland is it going to take to supply one? And by the way, that's solar and wind. How much acreage is it going to take to make us 100%? Unrealistic. And when I hear representatives, because I've gone to our township meetings such as DTE, and state that there are no toxins in these, I want to stand up and scream and say, I am not a chemist, I am not a physician, but I do know how to research, and not just stuff that's online. I have read academic study after academic study. and it's not good. And I'm so thankful that we have a health department that is stepping up and saying, okay, whether we're anti-solar or pro-solar or any of that, how is this affecting our people? Because we can look at past.
We've got to move on.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We can look at past history, medical history, and say, we thought this was going to be a good thing. And 20 years later, we have kids paying the price for it. Thank you.
Thank you. Elizabeth Masters. And then Anthony Farrell or Farrelly. I don't think so. Wasn't this her? Renee Leslie? That was you, right? Just spoke?
I'm sorry, yes, Renee Leslie.
Yep. Thank you. We were just making sure we got everyone in there. Thank you.
Thank you. And thank you to this honorable board for listening to the local residents of St. Clair County. So far, I've heard who's unopposed. I've heard a lobbyist and a leaseholder. Other than that, going back in history, I'm the supervisor of Wales Township. I have served on that board for 18 years. I began as a janitor. I never knew that I would end up in a situation like this, or what our county is facing, or what our state and our nation is facing, and we're trying to hold our ground. I so much appreciate where we live and the fighters, the people that hold true their houses. I mean, we may not have $500,000 houses, maybe we do, I don't. But we hang on to everything. We may keep to ourselves out in the country, but when it comes time, we come forward. And I just want to share, because the gentleman that drove in so far from Bay City wanted to let you know what ambience is. This is actually Shiawassee. That's 900 yards away. That's what I said, 900 yards away. And that was on a cloudy day. Now, the energy sector that's going to try to sell you this, what they're doing is they're taking township officials like me and county officials, and they're taking them to the poster child of Lapeer County. Land and Liberty, those are some of these lobbyists. They're going to show you that. It's got a nice walking trail. Don't even know if it's up and running when you take a look at it. They're not going to take you to Shiawassee. They're not going to show you that this has been going on for over 2 years and what this family has experienced. Now, we have stood our ground this long, and I so much appreciate that you guys are realizing from the health sector. And we don't want you stepping on the local townships about, you know, the glare and things like that. But I will tell you this right now, those landowners, those stakeholders, 9 times out of 10, they do not live where they have a lease. So let's think about that. They know better, but I appreciate it on the health side, because I think as we're doing this research and dragging our feet and holding it off, this room that I'm seeing now, 6 years ago, wouldn't know a thing about solar. Look at what we know now through research, and it's beyond Google, and we do consider our sources very carefully. Thank you very much, and thank you so much for your consideration and all your work.
Thank you. Anthony Farrell?
Yeah, my name's Anthony Farrell. I live in St. Clair Township. I'm also a pastor at Crossroads Community Church in St. Clair. And so I've done a lot of work with Dr. and Catherine Albrecht from the spiritual side. A couple of nights ago, I was on the phone with somebody, solar's coming in, and what I've seen over and over and over is an incredible sense of hopelessness. You have something that's just invading your property, invading your homestead, invading that sense of privacy that you have, and there's just a complete invasion. And so the hopelessness that people have is very disturbing. And so from my point of view, this needs to stop. It really, really does. This is inhumane. This is unconscionable. I'm not against solar. I'm not against alternative energies. I'm not against any of that. But what this is doing to real people, and I've got story after story, people with tinnitus, headaches, insomnia, a pregnant mom who's having to move because of solar coming in. She's afraid for her child that is yet to be born, a veteran with debilitating tinnitus, a farmer who can no longer farm due to the flooding that is occurring in his land. And so this is just unacceptable. Again, in terms of health, when a person has hope, when a person believes that their life can become something through a problem or a difficulty, I deal with that all of the time. People who are in a crisis or a hardship, and there is a hope for them to grow or to move beyond the hardship. But with this solar, there is none. It comes in and it devastates your life. And I think it is unconscionable. And so I'm not against solar, that's not the issue. The issue is what we're doing to people. So on the spiritual side of things, this truly needs to stop. So I'm going to quote a much higher source than myself or anybody within this room. It's Jesus himself. And he said, love your neighbor as you love yourself. And would anybody want this on their property or next to their property? Is that something you would want? I don't think anybody would say, yeah, sign me up for that. And so if we don't want it, if people who are advocating this probably don't want it in their neighborhood or in their property, then we should not impose it on the property and the privacy and the well-being of others.
Next is John Borkovich. After John is Christine Weber, Kevin Watkins, and Paul Richards.
Hey, thank you. All right, everybody. I know most everybody here and most of the panel up here. I know Liz and Dr. Nevins. Thanks for having me speak again. I worked as a Michigan conservation officer for 27 years. And I've written 3 books, and I've traveled all across the country talking about the benefits of nature, the benefits of clean water, the benefits of clean air, and the benefits of the rural life that we seem to live, the benefits that people that fish, people that hunt, people that kayak, people that nature walk, that makes us healthy, mentally healthy. And Dr. Nevins can talk surveys. He's more into the science than I am. I just deal with people. But the science says when you are happy, you're healthy. So all these outdoor things that make us happy keeps us healthy. Does that make sense? So that's the premise of why I come here. As a conservation officer, I can tell you my career, I was charged with duties to arrest people who ruined wetlands, who ruined our wildlife, who polluted our water, who polluted our air. That's what I did for my whole career, right? Now, we're getting a proposed project that's going to ruin everything I arrested everybody else for. We're somehow going to, maybe we're going to stop it now. Somehow we're going to promote ruining the things I used to arrest everybody for. Does that make sense? It's beyond our conception that our way of life, the reason we live in the country, we call our way of life. Dr. Evans and I had a conversation once. When he gets up by 26 Mile Road, he said, it's just, you leave that Detroit, that city area, you come up to the country, you get that relaxed feeling. We live here for a reason. We want that relaxed feeling and that calm lifestyle. You put in this big solar project, you're going to lose that. We already know the detriments and what's going to happen to land values, the water pollution, the air pollution, the visual pollutions, but you're going to lose your lifestyle. That's why we just, I won't keep you too much longer here. What I want to say is to these fine people here, We all have a footprint in life. We all have a wingspan. We all have a long shadow. What we do in life matters. What you are doing matters. What you are doing, you'll be remembered for being on the right side of history, for protecting these people and protecting fish, birds, and animals, which I'm kind of partial to. But you'll be remembered of having a long shadow for your actions and not being afraid to stand up for what's right. So, thanks for everything.
Thank you. Christine Weber. Is Christine still here? Christine Weber? Perhaps she's downstairs? We'll check downstairs. Give her a minute. Okay. Kevin Watkins? If Christine comes in, just let us know.
Hello, Kevin Watkins. I'm the Port Huron Branch NAACP president. I'm here representing Mini. This is what we do. We send one person to represent the masses. First, with what we're experiencing here is environmental injustice. And so I'm going to stand with our rural community feel based on thinking what the, other than what the urban community feels about the solar. Because those solar panels are coming to the rural areas. I live in Wells Township, so it definitely affects me. But the environmental injustice is an issue, and I want to say, you know, Dr. Nevin and I have different opinions, but this issue, he has it right. I'm with him, we're with him in regards to the effects of the solar panels. I just wonder, it's been like an angel drop from heaven on this issue here in St. Clair County to help the people who are just scrambling, trying to figure out what are we going to do. So thank you, Dr. Nevin. I'm speaking for many people on this issue. What we're dealing here with basically is green versus fossil fuel. There's some people for green and a lot against fossil fuel, but it's basically both have advantages and disadvantages, so we choose our poison. But I want to mention that we live in silos here, and we got to be careful of that, because I mentioned I was for 3 years on the Planning Commission in Wells Township, and Elizabeth Mather was our supervisor. We've been working on this a long time before it graduated. So what people do is that they only want to come to the table when it affects them. We got to stop that. We got to look at our friends and others who need help. And I'm going to back up a little bit, Dr. Nevin. I wish you dropped in on this area when Genesee County needed help with their Flint water crisis. So first, we also, a gentleman mentioned in regards to progress. We can't stay in the 19th century, you know, and so we got to be careful and understand we need progress. I know, like I said, mentioned I was on the World Township Planning Commission. We dealt with windmills and the cell towers, the marijuana dispensaries, Dollar Generals, believe it or not, and now solar panels. So there's always pushback with those things, but we realize that there can be positive things to that. But one thing I want to mention in my last few seconds is, guys, this is not, keep an eye on the big picture. You know, the issue with the solar panels, we're dealing with batteries also. And the richest man in the world, his industry, his business are batteries. So we need to be writing letters to your congressman and to address this issue, that whose side are you on? Are you with us? We're concerned about, are we really going to deal with this? Because the big thing about this is money. So keep in mind, like I said, let's scatter those silos, let's work together. Thank you, Dr. Denver, again, on this issue. We're with you because it is very important, and it is our health. Me being a nurse, I'm very passionate about that. This is the health, the wellness of communities. Thank you.
Paul Richards. Then behind Paul will be Daniel, sorry. Okay. And Katie Jadwinski, yeah, okay. No.
Paul Richards, Birchville Township. I'm on the Birchville Township Planning Commission. What Dr. Nevin done here is a very good start on controlling stuff. Your bottom limit for the county to be involved with the solar is at 50 megawatts. I'd like to see that lowered. I know for a fact that DTE, while they do have some big projects, they have several smaller ones that are well under 50 megawatts. And I can see where these companies are do workarounds on this stuff, where they'll have, on this mile, they'll have 49 megawatts. Next mile over, they'll have another 49. Call them 2 different projects. They'll work around the systems. Overall, what you guys are doing are great. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Daniel? And Katie, Paul Kitzman?
All right. Thank you, everybody, for being here, and thank you, Dr. Nevins and board. I'm going to try to read off this so I don't segue out of the way, and then I'll let my emotions get the best of me, like everybody else. All right. I'm speaking for my family and all the families who cannot. Our 8-year-old daughter wanted so badly to be here today and would love to speak out against this, but she's sick and cannot. But just know that this is tearing her up inside, because this is modern day Fern Gully for her, because John Borgovich's property is right across from ours. So she got to watch the destruction of 80 acres for no reason. First off, Ranger Power is the baby in this fight. It's actually DTE, who's a multi-billion-dollar corporation, is who we need to focus on, because they're here and they're playing chess, and Ranger Power is just checkers on the chessboard. They were the first little guy on the board so they could see what they could get away with, and DTE is who you need to be watching for. So it's not just the little guys. And secondly, I need to bring up the people in our area that caused the majority of this. Fort Gratiot Township Board Chair, Mr. Crawford, and Fort Gratiot Township Clerk, Mr. Bueller. They're the reason that we're here today, because they allowed themselves to be swindled by these corporations, and now the rest of us will have to pay the price for their greed. Fort Gratiot Township was the first domino in the plan, and now we're all trying to fight to stop their ineptitude. Remember those names, because those are key. They are the people that started this whole thing for the region. I will speak about battery storage because everybody else has covered solar pretty well. You've heard people talk about the negatives about lithium. I can attest from my experience that if we had a lithium fire in our community from a battery storage plant, we are not ready for that. It's going to devastate the surrounding areas, such as, but not limited to, the water above, below ground, air quality, and the land. The land here will never recover from such an event as this. Once again, I've seen the damage caused by this. I work for the government. I can tell you, it will never be the same again. Ever. It's literally a war zone type event. Gone. It's a desolate wasteland, and it's unusable for farming, let alone living for our children and our wildlife. Section 11, specifically in regards to violations, it doesn't specify who is accountable. We need to change that, whomever would be the one to change that. I personally believe that the project managers for each section of this project, no matter what company it is, need to be held accountable for the part that they take, because they are the ones that sign off on the project saying it's up to spec, whatever the regulations are. We decide if this happens to go forward, which we all hope it does not.
Time is up.
One last thing, no matter what happens, remember, Mr. Crawford and Mr. Bueller are the reasons that we are here. Because, quote, and you can go back to the record for this, all of you, in their personal opinions, they both said this: this is what is best for our community. That is what they said verbatim. I was at the meeting, my wife was at the meeting, most of you were at that meeting.
Okay, we got to move on.
Remember that.
Thank you.
They are the persons that we start with. Thank you.
Just one final check, if Christine Weber is here? No? Okay. Next up is Katie. I'm not going to try. You can correct me.
this down a little bit. I'm glad you all can see me. My name is Katie Jagodzinski. I live at 4426 Metcalf Road with my husband Daniel, who is just up here, and our 2 daughters. I have a main concern that has been heavy on my mind because we have a well, and we grow vegetables, and we have animals like chickens who we consume the product of them. My concern has always been with the water. Maybe growing up watching Aaron Brockovich, maybe that was the influence for how this is so heavy on my mind, but I have lost sleep over it, anxiety, all of it. I asked a DTE representative that was present at our Birchville Township meeting. I asked him, I said, do you do any testing on the water, on the groundwater, any soil testing, any of that before, during, after the construction, the operation of these? And he told me no. And I said, why not? And he said, because there's no reason to. There's nothing toxic in any of these. He could not give me any science behind that. He doesn't have any testing, but he just tells me they don't do it because they believe there's nothing toxic in them. But due to the unknown consequences of the construction operation of these industrial solar fields on the water quality and the surrounding areas, I would suggest the following: a baseline assessment of the soil and groundwater where the solar fields will be constructed and the surrounding areas, continual monitoring during the construction and the operation of these solar fields, and having certain parameters that would halt any kind of construction or operation if any irregularities are found. Any irregularities, anything that is off that baseline that could affect anyone in that area. An example of this, because it does happen, is there is a solar field in Adrian, Michigan that is operated by Blue Elk Solar. It is an example of where they found PFAS after monitoring the water quality in the area in and around that solar field. All of those residents in that area are not on municipal water. They all have wells. And they are now trying to do water testing for those residents. So my follow-up with that was, if there is any of these irregularities found, there needs to be a written remediation plan to correct and compensate the landowners in the area who are affected. You're never going to be able to reverse that once it happens. But, and we may not be able to stop this, but we have to be prepared for it. And the best thing that we can do is have something written in that protects our citizens, our kids, our animals, everything that we have, our whole lives are put into our homes. And we have to protect that, but we need to have those specifically put in place. So I would just like to add that to the already better than what we had planned. Thank you.
Thank you. Paul Kitzman. Then behind Paul will be Nick Marinich.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for the time, and thank you, Dr. Nevin, for your leadership and initiative on this with the committee and those working with you. I just wanted to be on record. I'm from Cotterville Township. I grew up on a farm, and I expressed a lot of the concerns that have been expressed already, so I won't repeat them. And I do ask that the committee support this proposal. Clearly, it looks like it might need to be refined moving forward with some other details, and hopefully the county board will support it as well. Thank you.
Nick Marinich. And after that is Jim Weir, and then Jim Frank.
Thank you for the opportunity. I'm Nicholas J. Marinich. I'm a farmer, an organic grower, as a matter of fact. Born and raised in Illinois, but came to Michigan to work for General Motors. As a matter of fact, I'm a registered, licensed, card-carrying professional engineer in Michigan. I've been this way, actually, for 49 years now. And as a matter of fact, an organic grower for 26 years. But we have some really nice organic land. Our land, as a matter of fact, was homesteaded in 1865 by John Patterson. His son, grandson, Harlan Patterson, sold us the farm in '79. Now, of course, the American Indian took care of that land, and it's a beautiful piece of ground.
And that's why, for instance, I have farmed organically because I want to preserve the land. But at the same pattern, I want to put the land in solar because it's something we all really need. One day or another, we're going to wish that solar farm was out there or out here across your whole parking lot. But whatever the case, we don't pollute the land at all. We've got solar systems right now. There's no pollution. It's quiet as a mouse. You can't even hear the damn thing. If you want to see, you got to see if it's running, you got to go look for the green light on the Fronius inverters. We have 2 setups. Honest to God, folks, they're the best thing you could ever have. It can be done, and it will be done. Thank you.
Thank you. Jim Weir and Jim Frank.
Hi, Doc. Enjoy your talks. Looks like I'm already running. So this is my 4th time up here. And I'm not against solar, as long as it's passive solar, or it's solar that's attached to your house, and it doesn't affect anybody other than you. But when you start making situations where it affects in townships and communities, and you have to run wires to somebody else's place so that it ends up being a communal solar farm, bad idea. And we've had lots of bad ideas. And we do it every day because we're so connected to greed. If you think about why this is going on, it's because the government has so much money. It says, here's a grant. We'll pay you to do whatever, whether it's a bad research thing or whether it's a bad solar farm. The government is paying people to do it, and we're paying the price for it. But one of the things that we have to think about when it comes to Michigan is we sit on an aquifer, and when it rains, that rainwater runs into our water system, whether it's into that St. Clair River or whether it sits in a pond and ends up affecting your well. And anything that's sitting on the surface goes in along with that H2O. So when there's clarity and there's clean water, great. When there's bad stuff in that water, well, we're back to paying again. And so under the circumstances that we have today, we have to not fight solar, fight greed. Because the company, if you think about Ranger Power, they're in Chicago. And when they first showed up in Clyde Township, I talked to one of their reps, and I said, so where are you? And he gives me his card, and it shows it's got an address in Chicago. I said, well, who funds this? This is a company out in New York. So it's back to follow the money. And we pay, and they stick it in their bank accounts. And so as long as that's going to be the case, we have to fight a little harder, a little longer, a little more direct, and we have to win. Because once they get the solar farms set up so that they can control your land, how long before they control your water? Thank you.
Can I start?
Yes, yeah.
Hi, I'm Jim Frank. I live in Birchville. And I hunt and fish, and I grew up in rural Wisconsin, and I was a trapper, and I spent a lot of time working for the Youth Conservation Corps when I was a young man. So the environment is something that's always been really close to me. And one of the things that I've learned in life is these lights that we have on around us, your computers, your cell phones, your cars, your televisions, all of those things contain cadmium, heavy metals, rare earths, those sorts of things that we're all concerned about, and I'm concerned about them too. I want us to have clean water. I want us to be able to have water from Lake Huron that we can drink. But I also understand that we can regulate to the point that will make it impossible to diversify our power grid. And if we're doing that, then we're creating regulations that are not really designed to protect us, but to stop solar from being in our county. What we want to do, and we all really need to come together on this because there is a path forward, we need to figure out a wise way to go ahead and go forward with this so that we can cite solar power in our county, but not prevent it in its entirety. Because listen, if we're going to use these kinds of regulations against solar power, we need to be doing the same thing with our road salts. Because if you look at studies at our lakes, the salinity of our lakes is going up. And once your lake is too salty to be fresh, you cannot fix that problem ever again. We need to regulate our road salts. We need to regulate the fertilizer and the pesticides we put on our lawns to keep them green, because as was just mentioned, where does that go? It runs off, percolates through our sandy soils, and ends up in the lake and is toxic to fish populations and wildlife. I spent a lot of time in the 7,000 acres of the Port Huron State Game area. I love it. The area from Comstock Road north, there are virtually no fish in there because of the Michigan Aggregate Company that's up there on Fisher Road, and because of a massive manure spill that occurred 10 years ago that wiped out all the fish from south of Croswell down to Comstock Road. I was out there a few days after that occurred. There were dead fish everywhere, and the fish have never really come back. So if we're going to create regulations, let's create sensible regulations that can be applied fairly with standards that are clear to everybody so that we can protect our environment, we can protect our rural areas here in St. Clair County, but we can still have electricity so we can see when it's dark, so we can still use and charge our computers and our phones, and so we can still have some of the things that we need in life. So far as I know, there aren't any public dollars being spent by these companies to cite.
Time's up.
And again, my time's up. Thank you so much, everyone. I appreciate it. Have a great night.
Thank you. Is there anybody who didn't have the opportunity to speak? Mary, I'm sorry. Legally, you can't have another 3 minutes. You already had your 3 minutes. Okay, thank you. Would you like to speak, ma'am? Yes. Okay, and you didn't sign in? Okay, if you could just state your name and your address when you go up to the podium.
Okay. My name's Patty Marinich. I'm in Brockway Township, and my husband Nick spoke a little while ago. As he mentioned, we're farmers. We're also both engineers who have been involved with solar energy for 40-plus years. We have 2 systems totaling 28 kilowatts. They've been running for 10 to 12 years with 0 problems. They're quiet. There's no leakage. There's no chemicals. There's nothing oozing out of them. It's crazy. Some of the stuff I've heard, I can't debunk it all, but I can tell you that there's a lot of hysteria and exaggeration being expressed here based on disinformation, rumors, internet garbage. Nobody has ever complained about glare. We're on a highway. There's no glare, there's no sound. And if you're gonna have regulations regarding sound, have at it, but apply it to everybody. Lawnmowers, tractors, traffic running up and down the road. You know, you can't just single out solar and apply rules to solar that aren't applied to anybody else. Be fair. Same with visual pollution. If you think visual pollution exists because of solar panels, then how about billboards? How about pole barns? I don't like the color red. Can I regulate that out? So I don't think you're being fair. We want to do solar. We're tired of fighting the township. And we're in 2 townships. We've had to have this argument many times now. And now we've got the health department jumping in. You know, we're having mental stress over this too. I heard people talking about mental stress. This is part of our retirement plan. We have property rights as farmers to do what we want. There's already regulations aplenty at the township level regarding noise, regarding shielding, putting trees around, all that stuff. And, you know, you're interfering with our ability to earn a living. The health regulations that are being proposed, some of them make sense from a health point of view, but some of them seem to be outside the purview of the health department. For example, decommissioning plans. And again, if you're going to have decommissioning plans being required for solar, it should be required for everything else that's built. Barns, houses, any kind of building.
Let's be respectful, please.
So in summary, I think these regulations are largely redundant. And I think if you're going to have regulations like this, as the other gentleman said, let's talk about the chemicals, the road salts, the herbicides. You know, those present a greater health danger. And a solar farm, when it's decommissioned 30 years from now, you're going to be left with the farmland.
Time is up.
And the development will not have occurred on that property. You'll have farmland in 30 years.
Thank you. Thank you. I'll have one last call. Is there anybody who didn't have the opportunity to speak who would like to? Then I'll also, we have some comments that came in through email. People also had the opportunity to email in comments, and we'll just put those into the record.
My name's Kevin Glass, Planning Commission, Wells Township. Kevin Watkins ever wants to come back, we'd be happy to have you. I want to thank definitely the health department and what you're doing tonight for all of us here. Even those that advocate for solar, I've heard a lot of common sense from people that have to live across the road, and I almost did till we stopped it, but these people are speaking about their lives, including those that want to make some money off their property, but there's zoning that particularly covers things like that in every township. And for us, I'm not going to use the word hicks, smart engineers and people that came to Wells Township to live in the country made sure our ordinances reflect what the master plan says, and that is to keep it rural, so you can live across the street from the farmland you want. And if people want to do solar, they can move to an industrial zone. But most importantly, for those that think there's too much being said negative about it, I'll repeat what I've repeated many times at these meetings. The fire departments from 2 areas came to our meeting. When I got them outside, I wanted to be face to face, and I said, what do you do when there's a fire in a solar farm from the batteries, whatever? And they both were happy I took them outside. But I told them I was going to tell people what their answer was. Both of them said the same thing: we let it burn. Now, if that's not something to be concerned about, regarding if you're solar or not, how can you argue with the point of a police chief and the men he sends out there to protect us? And then we got into the rest of the things about wind, battery systems, not knowing what they're really about, data centers, which I'm happy to say in Wells Township, our planning commission, the board, and even the county has approved everything we've done as far as making our ordinance strong enough to protect everybody. So it's important that we understand both sides, but there are places to put things, and if you don't happen to live in one of those places, we're not gonna, it shouldn't happen. It'd be no less than putting a landfill in your area. We want that because we can make money. That's not how it works. We came to the rural area for a reason, and we're gonna make sure we continue to do that in Wells Township. So once again, thank you. I hope you're the silver bullet that eventually solves this problem for all of us. So thank you very much, appreciate it.
Thank you. There's one more.
Just very quickly, we traveled from Lapeer County And I just want to thank Dr.
Can you
Nevin.
can you state your name?
Oh, sorry, Carol Wynn.
Thank you.
Dr. Nevin, for the memorandum. I received it through Wales Township, their Facebook page, because we've been trying to connect, because our township the map is just push pins where they've come in and taken farmland to, it hasn't been done yet. We're still working on ordinances, but we've been able to serve Lapeer County Commissioners with your memorandum, our township board with your memorandum, our planning commission with your memorandum, and now what it has done is it started conversations. And so now they're asking the questions that all of you are. And we just appreciate all of you, and thank you for having this hearing that we were able to attend. Thank you.
Thank you. At this time, I just want to quickly read in, not the whole comments, but just that the comments were made, so they're on the record. On April 8th, we received an email. There is no name, just a D. Stevens. On April 13th, we received a letter that has been shared with everyone here and Dr. Nevin from Katie Stepp of Kimball, Michigan. On April 13th, we also received an email from a Diane Sura. We received an email on April 13th from Tammy Dason. On April 13th, we received an email from Stephanie Bruette. On April 15th, we received an email from Amanda Teeple-Height. On April 14th, we received a letter from DTE. On April 15th, we received a letter from North Star Clean Energy. On April 16th, an email from Stacy Van Oost. April 16th, we received a letter from Richard Allen. So at this time, we'll be adjourning this public hearing. Thank you.